Welcome back. We're in Khan Academy under Algebra 1, and the unit is quadratic functions and equations. This is the skill compare quadratic functions. So let's look at their question. How many roots do the functions have in common? Okay, first of all, we've got two functions, but they're represented in two different ways. One is with an equation. F of x is given as a function, as an equation, and then this function g of x is graphed. So we're going to have to figure out our information about each function from the form they're in and then compare. So they're asking us to compare the roots. Which roots are in common? Now the roots of a quadratic are the x coordinates of its zeros if it has any. There are more, potentially if the function doesn't cross the x-axis, there are irrational, or there are imaginary roots, but for the purpose of this skill set, they're not going to have those sort. So this one hits the x-axis at 2 points. So each of those x coordinates is a zero of the function, that is a root of the function. And so we need to figure out what are the x coordinates where this function value is 0, where you're on the x-axis, so the y value, or the value of the function, equals 0. Alright, so 0 equals 2x squared minus 4x minus 16. Well, we can start by dividing by 2, because that's a common factor for each term. So we can say 0 equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. And then we can factor that. So 0 equals one binomial times another. X times x is x squared. I need a product to equal negative 8 and a sum to equal negative 2. Well, that's going to be negative 4 and positive 2. X times x is x squared. 2 times x minus 4 times x is negative 2x. And 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. So our zeros happen when this factor equals 0, that is when x equals negative 2, or when this factor equals 0. And that happens when x equals 4. So my two x coordinates of the x-intercepts are negative 2 and 4. That's for function f. Okay, so this is for f. For g, we just have to look at the graph. G crosses the x-axis at negative 2 and at 4. Negative 2 and 4. So function f equals 0 at these two x values, and function g also equals 0 at those two x values. So it shares two roots. Both roots of each of these functions are the same as the other. So I can answer my question. F and g share the same roots. That's true. Next question. Do the functions have the same concavity? Concavity is a description of how the curvature is oriented in space. So let's look at this. Graphically, this function g is easy to describe the concavity. It is concave up. So concave is a shape like inside of a bowl, okay? And it's pointed up, so this is concave up. Function f, we know that it opens down because the first coefficient on our highest degree x term is negative. So as x gets really large, the function value is going to decrease. Okay, so this graph is going to look something like that, which is concave down. The concavity is pointing down. So, to answer this question, no. We have two possible answers that are correct. These are incorrect because one was concave up and the other was concave down. Now we have to be careful. G is the function that's concave up. That's selection D. Lastly, which function has a greater y-intercept? Okay, y-intercept is where the function crosses the y-axis. Function g, graphically again, is simple. It's crossing the y-axis at 2. We'll write that. G crosses the y-axis at 0, 2. Function f is written in standard form. If you're on the y-axis, you know that your x-coordinate is 0, so we just have to substitute 0 in for x. That would make this term 0 and this term 0, so f of 0 equals 2. So f of 0 equals 2, so we're at that same point. Same point. So both of those cross the y-axis at the same y-intercept. And we're done.